John, would you please start the live stream?
We're good.
Thank you. Good afternoon. This is the regularly scheduled bi-monthly meeting of the Architectural Review Board. The Review Board is a city board appointed by City Council to serve on a volunteer basis. The board is charged by city law to review new construction and exterior changes within Mobile's historic districts. Due to the necessity of following CDC guidance and local and state orders, the meeting is being conducted remotely, and the public may follow the proceedings via live stream on the city's website. Anyone wishing to address comments to the board may either send those comments in writing by email or the U.S. Postal Service to the Historic Development Office, being sure to include one's name, home address, and the agenda item being addressed. Or contact the Historic Development Office to be placed on the list of speakers in the Zoom meeting. Comments and requests to speak in the meeting must be received by 5 p.m. on the day before the ARB meeting to ensure consideration by the board. Staff will introduce each application to the board and briefly outline the request. At that time, the chair will convene a public hearing to review the application. All comments must be addressed to the board. After comments from concerned parties, after comments from the applicant, the chair will ask for comments from concerned parties. Members of the public wishing to address the board in the meeting will be admitted to the meeting from the Zoom waiting room, and when their item of interest is announced. The concerned parties will be introduced to the board and the applicants. After comments from the applicant and concerned parties, the board will determine the appropriate action for the request. When an item of interest is concluded, the concerned parties will be returned to the Zoom waiting room. Following the meeting, staff will generate correspondence notifying the applicant of the board's action.
Gold or silver? What do you have?
Appeals of the review board concerning building issues are heard by City Council. There's a 15-day period to file the notice of appeal with the city clerk. The chair has already called the meeting to order. I will call the roll. Jim Wagner,
Here.
Katarina Eccles,
Present.
Gypsy Van Antwerp,
Here.
Andre Rathley,
Here.
Abby Davis,
Here.
Kim Harden,
Here.
Steve Stone,
Here.
and I believe Joseph Rodriguez is joining us right now. Joseph Rodriguez,
I'm here.
have I called everyone? Carrie, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
That's Carrie Morin for the record.
Thank you, Christine. So we have a quorum and we're ready to proceed. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from last meeting?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes from last meeting. This is Joseph Rodriguez.
Thank you. Have a second?
I'll second that.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 The motion carries. Can I ask someone to read the motion to accept all agenda items before we proceed?
This is Jim Wagner. I move that the Architectural Review Board find that all agenda items listed for February 17, 2021 Architectural Review Board meeting be adopted as necessary for the performance of the ARB's essential minimum functions.
I second.
Thank you, Jim. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any objections? Motion carries. I'd like a motion to approve the mid-month as written by staff and approved by
move.
staff.
The mid-monthly approved by staff.
Thank you, Gypsy. Do we have a second?
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
objections? The motion passes. So the public hearing portion of the meeting is about to start, and we are ready to consider the applications.
Yeah,
Christine?
can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
I'm having a little trouble getting my PowerPoint up here. So in keeping with my technological profile. Hey, Christine, I'm trying to get my PowerPoint up.
Bridget, can you pull up the PowerPoint?
So I do share screen, right?
Yes.
Yes,
And I'm
I
not-
can. I'm here. Let me see if I can get it. It's up. I just need to share my screen.
Yeah, for some reason I'm not.
Whoop.
In any case, I believe the board members did receive the PowerPoint in an email earlier this week. So if at the chair's pleasure, I can continue with the staff report.
That's fine. I can try to share it on my end as well. I have it.
No, I can't. Don't know where.
The subject property, 362 Dauphin Street, is a contributing property within the Lower Dauphin Street Commercial Historic District. The application under review involves the restoration of facade elements through installation of a new storefront, reconstruction of the rear wall, installation of an exterior staircase to access a new rear deck and new rooftop patio, the installation of windows and a door on the second floor of the rear elevation, and the restoration of the 2 balconies. Photographs of the building over the last 50 years or so show the installation and removal of wood shingles at the transom level and the closing of the 2 outer storefronts. An early photograph of the property, likely from the 1930s, shows an arched decorative element at the top of the eastern third's facade, but that element disappeared at an unknown date. However, very little substantive change appears to have occurred to the north and west elevations of the building over its nearly 100-year history. Therefore, the building is most consistent with building condition 1 noted above. The guidelines offer important guidance for the preservation of the historic storefronts and commercial buildings that are the backbone of the Lower Dauphin Street Commercial District. Regarding commercial facades and storefronts, the guidelines instruct: preserve key character-defining features of the historic commercial facade, repair an altered storefront to its original design, and retain an original bulkhead as a decorative panel. The proposed changes to the building facade would preserve character-defining features, including the basic fenestration pattern, the coped parapet wall, and the rafter tails exposed under the western roof eave. The application also proposes the restoration of the easternmost storefront to a design that matches the existing central storefront and the preservation of the existing bulkhead. Therefore, the proposed changes to the facade would not alter the character-defining features and would be in conformance with the guidelines. The application proposes to remove the existing bulkhead, panel, and glazing at the easternmost storefront and replace the storefront to match the adjacent storefront to the west with a recessed painted panel door. Specifically referencing historic storefronts, the guidelines instruct: retain the original shape of the transom in a historic storefront. Replace a historic storefront to be consistent with the historic location. Preserve historic doorways in their original location and configuration, and maintain an original doorway to emphasize the commercial entrance. The replacement storefront would be located in the historic easternmost storefront bay of the building, that is, the same location as the existing, and would be composed of materials to match the existing central storefront, which appears a little changed from the original. The application proposes the preservation of the existing historic transom. The guidelines emphasize the preservation and reuse of original building materials. Preserve and repair original materials on a historic commercial building whenever possible, and strive to preserve materials on the sides and rear of a historic commercial building where possible. The application proposes the reuse of historic bricks in reconstructing the deteriorated north wall of the building, as well as preserving and restoring materials on the Dauphin Street and Franklin Street elevations of the building. The application proposes to repair the existing balconies. If balconies are not original to the structure, they are very early additions, as illustrated by the circa 1930 file photo. Regardless, they have been familiar elements of the south and west elevations for decades. The guidelines encourage the retention and restoration of balconies on commercial facades, stating, preserve and repair an existing balcony or gallery. The application proposes many changes to the rear elevation of the building, including the installation of new windows and a new door to access a new rooftop patio, the construction of a new covered deck on the second floor, and the installation of metal stairs to access second floor living units. While the guidelines do not specifically address changes to rear elevations of commercial buildings, non-primary elevations generally are discussed as follows. When replacing materials on non-primary facade or elevation, match the original material in composition, scale, and finish. Use original materials to replace damaged materials on a non-primary facade when possible. The application proposes to deconstruct and reconstruct the rear elevation using the existing bricks. The existing fenestration pattern would be maintained, and if existing windows and doors cannot be repaired and reused, they would be replaced with aluminum-clad windows and doors of designs closely resembling the existing. The proposed reuse of the Fry building as commercial on the first floor and residential on the second floor presents a challenge in applying the guidelines, as the two uses are addressed separately. Furthermore, the secondary elevations of commercial buildings are working elevations intended for deliveries, trash removal, and other tasks not intended for public consumption. And changes to these elevations, when they become necessary for the efficient conduct of business, do not merit the same level of scrutiny as changes to the primary facades of commercial buildings. However, the Fry building's location at the corner of Dauphin and Franklin Streets makes visible the rear elevation. Additions such as the metal stairs and second floor covered deck would be plainly visible from Franklin Street right away. The proposed use of steel framing for the raised deck and the exterior stairs would recall the building's commercial history. Furthermore, metal exterior stairs have been used historically on other buildings in the lower Dauphin Street commercial district, including the rear and side elevations of the Sanger Theater. Staff recommendation. Based on section B above, staff believes the changes proposed in the application would not impair the architectural or historic character of the subject property or the surrounding district. Staff recommends approval of the application.
Thank you, Christine. Carrie, are you representing the applicant?
No, Katarina, the project architect from our office, Robert Marin, is on the line and he will be.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And
Welcome.
I will mention for the record that Carrie is recusing herself from this application.
All right. Thank you. Is there anything else you would like to add to Christine's presentation?
No, I think she's covered it all.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in line to speak about this application, Christine, in the waiting room?
No, we did not receive any requests to speak in the meeting or any written correspondence regarding this item.
All right, thank you. So I'll pass the discussion to the board.
This is Steve. Welcome. The only question I have is what is going to separate the parking lot for 360 from the steel stairs? Is there a fence or?
There's a driveway and then a fence.
Okay. The driveway is part of 360's property?
No, the property line's right at the beginning of the driveway. It's about 4 feet north of the building.
Okay.
And we're putting a deluge sprinkling system for that back stair. We're not sure how far it is. That's why you're asking. Close to the back property line.
I'm having a hard time hearing you. Okay, that was my question.
Anybody else?
I will make a motion to find facts as written if no one else is.
Well, I have a question about the aluminum
Okay.
clad windows. Something
Never
about
mind.
clad windows.
Hello?
Oh, I'm here now, finally.
Yes.
Better late than never, I'm sorry.
Hi, Craig.
No, I just had one question about at the rear. I think I heard something about putting in aluminum clad windows in the rear of the building. Didn't somebody tell me something about, don't we have something about historic buildings with aluminum clad windows?
Aluminum clad windows are permitted in Mobile's historic districts under the design guidelines.
Okay.
All right, so
I'll reiterate my motion to find facts as written.
do we have a second?
Second.
This is Jim, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any objections? The motion passes.
I will make a motion that the project does not impair the historic integrity of the district or building and should be granted a COA. This is Steve.
Thank you, Steve. Do we
Second,
have-
Kim Harden.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any objections? The motion passes. Congratulations. It's a great project.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'll see y'all later if you don't need me.
Bye. Christina, we can pass on to the next one.
This application concerns the demolition of 3 one-story additions to a contributing property in the Old Dalton Way Historic District. The additions are in poor condition due to the general neglect of the property by previous owners over at least the past 15 years, as illustrated by issued municipal offense tickets. Applications for certificates of appropriateness for the demolition of structures within historic districts must be considered in light of the significance of the structure in question, the condition of the structure, whether the structure is the last remaining positive example of its kind in the neighborhood, county, or region, the impact of demolition on surrounding structures, and the future utilization of the site. The subject building is a contributing structure within the Old Dalton Way Historic District. The main mass of the house, constructed circa 19, is a Victorian-era structure with turned porch supports. The simple rear additions do not contribute to the architectural significance of the property, and at least one of them appears to be fewer than 50 years old. The additions are in poor condition, likely having been constructed with less care than the original house, as is the case with many additions. In addition to obvious sill and roof decay, there is heavy decay at the junction of the second and third additions on the north elevation. The property suffered neglect for many years under previous ownership. The lack of regular maintenance has had deleterious effects upon the structure. The additions in question are plain, unadorned wood frame structures resting on brick piers. The additions are not unusual, nor are they the last remaining of their type and style in the district, county, or region. The demolition of these additions would have little to no impact on neighboring structures or the neighborhood, as they are not visible from the public right-of-way. The proposed future use of the site would be additional backyard area. Clarification. If the restored rear elevation will include the installation of windows and a door to access the rear yard, what materials are proposed? Staff recommendation. Based on section B1 above, staff believes the proposed demolition would not impair the architectural or historic character of the subject property or the surrounding district. Staff recommends approval of the application.
Thank you, Christine. Who's on the call to represent this application?
It's Riley.
Oh, hi, Riley. Welcome.
Hey.
Is there anything you'd like to add?
No, that's it. You can just see the structure on the back. You can see the original part of the house, which kind of resembles the two-story part of the house. And then the plan is just to get, it says on this paper 3 additions, but it's actually only, I believe it's only 2. And that's the structure off the back and then the structure off the side. And it's the 2 areas that have the low pitched flat roofs that really, I think, have been rotting for, it goes through the ceiling to the floor to where the floor is all rotted out. Even the sills, everything, you can see how most everything's just kind of fallen off. It's rotted through so bad.
Thank you. Christine, is there anybody else that is online to speak about this application?
No, there was no request from the public to speak the meeting, and we did not receive any written correspondence regarding this item.
Okay, perfect. So in that case, it's open to the board.
This is Steve. I have a question.
Okay.
I'm all for the demo of that back structure, but we don't, as far as our package, I don't have any drawings as far as what's going back. Did we ever produce that? Because all we're saying is, restore the back facade, but we don't know what that is.
Okay. I have not sent y'all anything. I do have, Tim Spafford is drawing me up what it will look like. But I guess for the time being, if you wanted to know,
I appreciate the verbal description of it, but we can't really run by that or vote on a verbal description, or at least I can't. So I'll leave it to the chair.
Steve, can I say something?
Yeah.
This is Craig.
Mhm.
Can't we approve the demolition, but then he comes back with a proposed change on the back drawn up?
I don't have a problem with that, but I think this is going to be, a vote by the board. I think that the idea, I don't think he would be spending all this money in demolishing the back if he wasn't doing something, positive in the back. And we already know he's going to landscape. So it will be a question of, windows and doors, as long as they're in keeping with the style of the house. But that's just my opinion.
Well, we're supposed to be able to have something to vote on that we can see that's going to replace what is torn down. If it's as simple as a board approval, as a staff approval, that's okay. But something needs to, Steve is right bringing that up, because we're not supposed to approve anything. We have approved demolitions before, and then the client would come back later and with the proposed renovations or additions, or in this case, restoring to what it was before, but we don't know what it was before because we don't have any pictures, right?
Right.
So.
We try to be as
Christine?
consistent as possible about requiring what's going back when we approve demolitions. We might be able to put some conditions on our demolition approval, like Craig was saying, that the applicant would provide in-kind elevations of what we're going back, and materials, matching, that sort of thing, as conditions.
I can barely hear that.
Can too.
I think
But
that
she
this-
was just reaffirming what I said is what she was doing.
And again, this is Steve again. I mean, I am completely fine, and I think it'll be perfectly fine, except I'm surprised that staff brought this to us without drawings. And that's, I mean, it's putting the board in a bad position to vote on something that we really don't know. And yeah, every demolition that we've come in that has not brought plans, everyone says they're going to do something nice, and it's always in quotes, and then we always make them bring drawings back.
Right.
think-
It's probably something I could, because, I was hoping to have it to y'all. Christine had mentioned to me last week, and so it is something that I should be able to produce, possibly by this Friday.
And again, I don't want to hold up the works. And, if you withdraw it, it's actually a much quicker process. And Christine can walk you through that more than having it voted on. But it's up to you guys.
Well, when you say you guys, do you mean us board members or he and his
Well,
people?
I mean, ultimately, it's up to the chair and the applicant.
Okay.
I would recommend the applicant withdraw and get us the drawings, and maybe we could get it on the next meeting.
Okay, and what is the date of the next meeting?
2 weeks from today.
March
I think
3rd.
March 3rd.
While you're contemplating that, I have a different question, if I may.
Go ahead, Jim.
Riley, if everybody's looking at the same picture I am on the screen, which says in review, in the picture of the structure, Riley, it's just for my clarification. Did I understand you correctly that as we're looking at this picture of the rear of the house, the portion that's going to be demolished is just that very back sort of flat roof portion, not the one that's immediately attached to the house? Is that correct?
That's correct. It's just the 2-story, and then the one that sits up a little bit higher with the pitch roof. Only the areas with the flat roof is what will be gone.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
So Riley, I'm sorry, this is Joe Rodriguez. That does include the side flat roof too?
That is correct.
I think it'd be better if we just had a set of drawings and we could go through this pretty quick, just like it's recommended in 2 weeks. And probably be a problem at all.
Okay.
Well, we could approve demolition right now, so he could get started with that, right?
I tend to agree with Craig. I don't see any point in delaying. I mean, what is being removed, it's really the part of the house that's not even, in keeping with the rest. So he's just cleaning it up. Once we find out what he has after that and he has some drawings, then we can, or the staff can approve it to move forward. We're just really approving demolition of something that's
Right,
not in
right.
keeping with the house. I'm good with that.
We've done that before several times.
Well, I would appreciate that if we could do that.
I'm
All
in
right,
agreement.
Does that mean the facts need to be amended? Is that how this is, to where it's just the demolition? Is that how this is done? Steve, remember?
Not me.
Yeah, but you remember how we do this. You just don't want to do anything.
Now, I think we can amend the facts to reflect that the applicant is going to come back with drawings to show what's going to be going in place. And he said he'll have the drawings by Friday. That's 2 days away. So we can approve the demolition contingent on him providing those drawings to the staff.
That would be great.
Is there a problem with this, or?
I'm in agreement.
Are you setting a deadline of Friday?
Yes.
Is that good with you, Raleigh?
Yes, ma'am, that would be okay with me.
And I would just state, this is Steve again, that what you're saying is for future applications, not just this one, that we are approving demolition without drawings as long as they say they're going to bring them in at some point. That's what you're
Right.
saying right there. So,
No, I
yes,
don't see
that's
it that
exactly
way.
what you're saying. It's exactly what you're saying.
We are not removing something that's period that you're going to be adding onto. He's just removing something and adding a window or a door. It's not the
Until
same
he
thing as adding a
clarified it right
structure.
now, until he clarified it right now, I thought he was tearing off the whole back because the review application says three additions, and that was wrong. So right, it's even
Steve, that is my mistake.
But
I
even-
made an error.
things aren't lining up. And we're just saying, yeah, just go ahead and take it down and bring us some drawings on Friday. It's cool. I'm just saying, it's gonna come back to haunt you.
We need to be consistent. This is Kim. Kind of back to my first comment, if y'all can hear me, is that I do think we would be more consistent in asking him to withdraw. But if the board prefers to approve demolition without documents, that's going to be up to the board, but that would not be consistent with what we've required before.
Well, again, this is my second time doing this. I just don't feel this to be, I understand where you're coming from, but I don't want to jeopardize this or open an exception. So if the board feels that way, I guess I don't have any choice but to tell you to come back in 2 weeks and with the drawings, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Would it be mid-monthable, Katerina?
That's what I thought. I mean, we already, as a board came together and said that the structure in the back, it doesn't really mean anything to the building. So as long as the staff could look at those drawings by Friday and see what's going in there and it's in keeping, then it could be approved. If the drawings show that what is proposed for the back is completely out of question, and it is in the back of the building, then, we would reconvene again, because it would go against the amended motion. But I am reading between the lines, I guess.
No, strikes me as reasonable.
But we are a board, so I'll defer to everybody's opinion.
Well, I think you need to propose something, like, are we going to accept this proposal as is, or are we going to reject this, not reject it, but just put it on hold and have him come back in 2 weeks? So which thing are we voting
Well,
on?
let me may I?
Just ask that we hold it back for 2 weeks, right? That would be up to the owner, right? If he wants to just resubmit in 2 weeks, then we, that would take us out of it.
Riley, is 2 weeks gonna put you behind or make a problem for you?
It would not, of course, but at the same time, I would love to move forward, but it's
Well, what the rest of the board, what most of the board is saying is to follow our rules.
okay.
I mean, this is one of those, oh, really? Well, maybe not. But, to really keep, so nobody comes back with a bigger problem and says you did it for him. If
Okay.
you could wait 2 weeks and just bring those drawings to staff, and then we'll schedule you in 2 weeks.
Okay.
And I'm sure it'll fly right through, no problem,
Okay, that's not
So
a
why don't
problem.
we just do that, and then that'll end the conversation. So you just say, I want to withdraw. That's all you have to say. And I'll
Okay,
come back
I
in 2
will.
weeks.
I will withdraw.
Thank you.
Thank you, Riley.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, so we'll just table it until 2 weeks. That's it?
Now we can go home.
Yep. Is there any other business to discuss, Christine?
There is Mr. Matt Anderson, who is the city's Director of Civic and Cultural Affairs, would like to brief the board on some proposed plans for Bienville Square.
Oh, that'll be good. That's gonna be good.
Yeah, so I'm going to keep it short and sweet. You know, I think we could probably go on at length, but I think the best way of doing this, Christine, is, you know, I'll just kind of run through the, you know, the big picture, and then I'd like to share with all of you a document that the Downtown Parks Conservancy worked on with the firm Carbo, I believe is the firm that did the plan. And they also worked with, you know, some architecture firms and things like that. So anyway, I'll share that plan with all of you. And then, you know, we can probably, you know, do a more robust discussion at the next meeting or something. But obviously, you know, I think we met with just about everybody on the call here, most of the folks on the call, with regard to Spanish Plaza a few weeks ago, and, you know, understanding that Bienville Square is much more, you know, much more of a contributing element to its district than Spanish Plaza is. It was a lot more imperative that we make sure to get the ARB in on the front end with regard to, you know, discussing the Bienville Square changes that could be contemplated. So what we're looking at initially is a change that would occur in phases, and what we're looking at right now is the first phase would consist of some kind of more refined plaza in the middle of Bienville Square around the fountain, as well as the structural and mechanical fixes to the fountain that need to be made. So my understanding, and I'm not an architect or an engineer or plumber for that matter, but the fountain has sunk a good bit, and it also has, you know, some of the mechanical workings inside of it need to be fixed. So what we'd like to do is go in and raise the fountain, fix the basin beneath it, and the plumbing, for lack of a better term, inside of it, and then do some kind of paved, or not paved, but like a brick plaza around it, whereas right now it's just kind of a concrete slab around it with some benches. I think we're aiming for something that's a little bit nicer. And then also the first phase would include the north, south, east, west axis, the lesser used pathways, to go ahead and make those of a matching material to that central plaza. And we don't know what that would be quite yet, but, you know, we have a you know, we have an understanding that when it comes to the design aspect of it and the materials that are used, you know, we want to make sure that the ARB is there on the front end so that we don't, you know, get sideways with anybody. So, Christine, you had made a comment before that maybe we should see who wants to, you know, be on a design review committee, or if anybody in particular had an interest in going out to the site with us to kind of talk through some of the elements, or probably both. I mean, this is, it's already attracting a lot of philanthropic attention throughout the city. So I think that we're going to see this, a lot of pressure to make a move pretty soon, you know, within the next couple months or so. We're going to have surveyors out there before long getting a firm grasp on, you know, the precise measurements of the space. But Christine, did you have any thoughts about that, about doing a design review committee beyond, you know, just the mention of it in the last meeting, or did we want to just see where the board wanted to, you know, assign a handful of folks to serve on that kind of committee, or if there was even an interest for that? I'm all ears.
Well, I would like to discuss this a little bit with our board chair, of course, and which I have not had the opportunity to do so yet, but I'd like to discuss it with her and see if there is interest amongst board members. And knowing the board as I do, I'm pretty sure that there are going to be some folks who will be very interested in plans and would like to have a little bit of guiding input on the front end before anything official comes in front of the board, so that we can kind of make sure that they're no misunderstandings as far as the application process, as far as what items the board will be especially interested in, so that, everybody has a really good understanding of the proposal and how it would fit in with the design guidelines.
Right.
I will be
Well, I think, rather
checking in
than,
with Katarina in the next few days regarding that.
right, well, rather than force a conversation right now, obviously I can take questions, but I think the best thing to do would be for me to share some of that information. Christine, I'll just send the document to you. It's a pretty large document file, so we might have to find another way to distribute it. I'll
Yeah,
double
I
check on that.
actually got it through a Dropbox, so you might have to go
Okay.
that way. It's pretty
Well,
big.
if you already have it through a Dropbox, I don't know how you guys typically share files with the board, but it might be best to do it that way since you already have something. And we can go ahead and share that, at any point. But if anybody has any questions about, the general, it's all very vague right now. There haven't been any major decisions made except kind of a sequencing decision that the fountain needs to be done first so that we don't end up tracking back all over our work as we progress. But if anybody had any other thoughts or questions, I'd love to talk about it now.
Are there any questions at this time?
This is
Anybody?
Carrie Mark. I do have just a quick question, Matt. In the preliminary works and looking at this park, are there any considerations about maybe putting some vendors within the park or stations for vendors within the park? Has that been considered or?
Yes, so there's and you'll see this in the document that Christine is going to send out. There is the northeast side of the park where there used to be a bus stop. We removed that bus stop and that concrete. There's kind of a concrete island that was there for a long time. We removed that and we've two-wayed the street there quite a while ago. But what we've ended up with is a right-of-way that's just tremendously wide. And so we're looking at doing something on that side of the park, not really within the grounds of the park itself, but kind of more where that, where we have a lot of excess right of way on that side.
Interesting. And I have one more question.
Sure.
Has zero grade been considered, like extending the paving out into the street? The way some of these great parks in other urban areas have, or are we just keeping it contained? I know there's a significant grade elevation, but it seemed like that was talked about a couple years ago.
I don't think anything's off the table. You're right. There is a pretty significant grade change. It's almost, pyramid-like within that. You have to step up on it. But I think that anything is up for discussion. For us, a lot of what we've felt constrained by, even when we're talking about it conceptually right now, is what is it that is going to be considered character defining? Is the grade that it's at, is that a character defining feature? I don't know. So that's why I wanted you guys in on the front end, and maybe we could even go do a site visit with that committee once we have something set up.
Right.
Christine, I think what would be interesting too is to have some of our archived photographs of the park to see how it has changed over time, and maybe to borrow some from that, to find out what is character defining, what has been lost, what should be brought back or not. But it'd be interesting to see that in contrast.
Yeah, that's a great point, Katarina. The document that Carbo provides actually has about 50 pages of history that includes some photographs and a pretty good write-up. And I'm sure that we could supplement that with some work from John. I'm sure he has plenty that he would have to say about it. But I think that's a great idea, and we've got a decent body of work to build off of to make some good, solid decisions. So we have a really phenomenal park at the end.
That's great.
Matt, I have a question. I know things are very conceptual right now, and I've not seen the documents yet, so I look forward to seeing those. But I know before the last hurricane, there was discussion by the city of a perceived need to remove some trees. Does this plan conceptually involve the removal of any additional trees in the square?
You know, I think it's really what you said at the beginning. It's really conceptual. I don't know that we'll need to remove any more trees because the two biggest ones that would have had to have been removed for the plaza is it's kind of been kicked around right now. They were taken down in the storm. So I don't know that there's actually, I don't know that there would be any trees that would need to be removed in this first phase. You know, I think probably about 4.5 years ago, it might have been 4.5 or 5 years ago, we had foresters go through, and I think we removed something like 25 trees, and it was so, you know, it was just so dense that nobody ever noticed. And then a few more have come down over time, and it's really opened up the space a lot already. I don't know that there's going to be a need for any more. In fact, when I walked through with the mayor about a month ago, he was looking at a few spots where he would like to take down some sick trees and put in some healthy trees, you know, a little bit away from the walkways, maybe that way they have more room to flourish, because there are some spots where it would make sense to add a little bit more, you know, it's kind of just because the way the storms did it, you know, it's just totally random. So I think there's a little bit of room for reimagining what even the treescape could look like.
Okay, well,
no
it'll be
removal
an
of
interesting, it'll be an interesting conversation. The trees always are, so it'll be fun to listen to.
Yeah, you're telling me.
Thank you, Matt. I'm looking forward to looking at those drawings.
Great. Yeah, absolutely, Katerina and Christine. So if you would send that link out, if that Dropbox link doesn't work for some reason, we'll figure out another method. But also, Christine, if you just share my contact information with the board in case anybody wanted to reach out separately to talk through it. We're definitely, you know, it's in the phase of, just like a lot of projects, it's in that phase where the vision is still in the wind a little bit, but every idea that comes in still has the opportunity to mold what the future could be. So thank you for letting me speak with you. I intend to be back for the March 3 meeting to do any follow-up that needs to be done.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, Matt. If anybody in the board would like to be part of the design committee, just let me know, or Christine. Well, anything else?
There's nothing further.
All right. Thank you, Christine. I guess we're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.